What's up, everybody? It's Honore, also known as X-Rated. I'm here with Thizzler. Subscribe below. Looking back on it, I'm one of them people that I don't indict my culture. So you got a lot of people change their lives or get educated to indict the culture. I like that, I get educated and I could tell you what's beautiful about my culture. I could tell you what's wrong with it, but I could tell you what's beautiful with it. Because I come from a group of men. My educators told me if you don't got a solution, you don't get to talk about a problem. And so I started learning solutions so that I could talk about problems with the men who were dead serious kind of men. And so looking back on it, I got a cousin named Artie Barnes, AJ. He one of the legendary figures from 24th Street, one of the ones who was there from the beginning. And he got me addicted to hip hop. My mom played a lot of, Sugar Hill Gang, The Message. There was a lot of Midnight Star, Atlantic Star, a lot of that in the house, Soul Sonic Force. But Artie hit me with the Invasion of the Flat Booty Bitches, you know what I mean? Artie hit me with that Uncle Too Short and hit me with that. The first tape I ever bought, I went with Artie to a Tower Records that don't exist no more. And we bought Bad, the Bigger and Deffer LL Cool J album. And it was the first tape I ever bought. And so I remember just being in love with that, and that being the soundtrack of my almost 2 summers it lasted me, where I was just addicted to picking apart what LL was doing, because he was Lil Wayne and he was Kendrick, you know what I mean? He was that guy. And so it was amazing to be able to be a part of that. But also my cousin was a Crip, and he was a gang member, active, and he was serious about that. And so I idolized him, and I looked up to him and followed his footsteps. I dressed like him, I talked like him, I just wanted to be my big cousin. And so, I took that to the streets. Brotha Lynch Hung from Tamara, Shannon, and Kirkway, 24th Street baby. And so, I'm a generation under him. I call him my big bro. That's my big homie. And so he was running in a circle that was a little bit older than me. And they were known for dancing. They had dance crews, DJ crews. He was savage on the dancing. They called him Ice Cold. And couldn't nobody fuck with Brotha Lynch with no dancing, and they couldn't fuck with him with no flipping. That nigga was like an Olympic flipper, you know what I mean? He was like a gymnast. He really was cracking. I'm serious too. I didn't do flips for like a mile. He was saved out. So I'm looking up to him and hearing about him. And so I was at a house party for my grandmother's death date in 1991. And and 666 came with my cousin Nicole. And I have rhymes taped to the walls the way people tape up comic books. I had rhymes on the walls, and he walked in there and was like, who the fuck wrote this shit? And I'm like, I did. Spit some bars with him, and the next day he brought Lynch. And so me, Lynch, and 666 spit bars till 2, 3 in the morning at my boy Tantrum House, Percy Hunter. And he was like, man, if you can pay for your studio time, I'll put you in a booth and let you do you. And come on, man, you can't tell me that. This is Reagan era politics, you know what I mean? I went and got the sack. I told my big bro, Tony, and the twins, Raymond and Rich, man, I need a sack, straight up. And they gave me a little bit of money. I took that to the big homie BK, and he was like, Big Ken Martin. He was like, pull up. So I went to the hood. I gave him the money. He go in the house and come back with a big ass softball of crack cocaine. Then I left. I'm walking down the street. I start feeling guilty. So I go back. I say, big homie, I think you gave me the wrong one. And he was like, he laughed at me. He laughed like he gonna give me the wrong thing, right? So he walked back in the house and come back with a bigger one. And he was like, this right here is for being a solid little homie, man. I appreciate that you had the thought to come back. He's like, I gave you what I wanted to give you, but here you go. This nigga gave me, it was almost a quarter pound of crack cocaine. Incredibly destructive to the community, and I contributed to that. So I went out there and got that off all day, all night for 3 or 4 days, did my thing, got my paper up, and went to Inharmonic Studios and paid for my own studio time and made a little EP with Brotha Lynch and Six. And we put that out and that started popping. And that got into the hands of Cedric Singleton. And Cedric Singleton started looking for me, and Miko Ure from Meadowview Garden started looking for me. They like, you know, I ran into Meek. He didn't know it was me. You know, I used to be right next door at Tracy Butler, Andre Butler's house from Miko and Sibo Grandma's house all the time. So they knew who I was, but they didn't know that was my tape. They're like, who the fuck is X-Rated? You know what I mean? Who the fuck is Honore? And so I ran into to Young Meek in Juvenile Hall. And I didn't even know he was that young, because this nigga was breaded out, driving Cougars and Stangs and all kind of shit. He breaded out. I'm like, fuck is Young Meek doing in Juvenile Hall? And it's come to find out he was just a year or two older than me. And Meek was like, nigga, you X-Rated? I got you. And so Meek ended up dumping all that paper into the music for me and Lynch. And that became Psychoactive in 24 Deep. With me, Brotha Lynch, 666, Tantrum, Cedric Singleton, and Miko Ure. And that was how that happened, man. It was very early. It's so early, it's before the Chronic and it's before Doggy Style. Like, people could forget I was out before all of that. And Psychoactive influenced the Chronic, and Psychoactive influenced Doggy Style. Psychoactive influenced Tupacalypse, that I was out before those records. You know what I mean? Like 40 in the Bay, Spice One in the Bay, me, we influenced what everybody else was doing. And they getting to the point now where they willing to admit that. I think there's a picture of Dr. Dre on the front of the Source magazine doing my Psychoactive album cover. You know, like right after my album dropped. It ain't even like it's a leap. No, that picture don't exist in hip hop until I did it. And then Dre's on the cover of the Source doing my album cover. And so I think trying to record from prison, really even before that, Brotha Lynch was doing a song, I'm in Juvenile Hall. Brotha Lynch is doing a song and he say, man, I got this track I need you on. And so he didn't even play a beat for me. He just told me the tempo. You know, and it's gonna be around the corner at the payphone. I got the 40s in the dank and I got the 9 chrome silver song, let it be known. I'm like, okay, cool. So I did that on an answering machine. And Lynch took that and put it on 24 Deep, and that became one of my classic lines while I was locked up. And he was out there representing for me. So now Mac Dre got a bar of that. Mac Dre was aware that I did that. And the big homie, so I'm in the county jail, and I refer to Dre as the big homie because Dre was, I used to drive to the studio bumping Mac Dre. I was bumping too hard for the radio while I was making Psychoactive. And so this is somebody I was looking up to already. Like, I'm one of them classic real life Bay Area, Northern California babies. I was bumping America's Most Wanted. I was bumping J. Jonah Sin. I was bumping Cool Nut. You know what I mean? Like, I was bumping RBL Posse. That's what I was listening to, because that's what spoke to home. I was listening to Richie Rich at 415 and D-Loc and them. And so I'm bumping Mac Dre and looking up there, I'm too hard for the fucking radio, like early Dre. And so I'm in the Sac County jail, and I walk in the tank on my way to court, and Mac Dre is in there in the tank chilling. You know what I mean? And Dre, you know, Dre ain't scared of nothing. Like, a lot of people don't know that about Mac Dre. Mac Dre with the cartoon character player shit, but Mac Dre wasn't scared of nothing. That nigga didn't have a lick of fear in his body. So I walk in the tank, and I'm like, you know, okay, we in this motherfucker, and it might go down up in here, you know what I mean? Straight up, everybody get through in the tank. It's live or die up in that thing. So I walk in there, I see Dre, and I'm like, hey, it's the homie. We start chopping it up. He knew who I was immediately, because we got this tie. Because we were the two people in Northern Cali who were having these negative experiences with court, every time they wrote stories about Bay Area hip hop, it was always me and Mac Dre. First time I was ever in a Source magazine, me and Mac Dre. September 1992, written by Billy Jam from the Bay. So it's me and Mac Dre. And first time I'm in Vibe magazine, me and Mac Dre. So I'm tied to him, and every time he saw himself in these publications, he saw me. Every time I saw myself, I saw him. And so when I walk in the tank, he already knew. He was like, oh, it's the Psychoactive, what's happening? And so we chop it up, and Dre tell me when he recorded the live from the Fresno County Jail and some shit he did for Mac Mall, like how they had recorded their shit. He was like, this is how we did it. I take that back to Cedric Singleton at Black Market Records and explain it to him. And then we hit In Harmonic and John Botch at the studio in They take the phone apart, one of them rotary phones. They take the headphone part, the listening part, and solder the wires and plug that straight in the mic. And take another phone apart, solder the wires and plug that into the speaker, the transmitter. So I'm calling one phone and listen to the beat and calling another phone and spit the bars. And so I start making exorcists like that. You know what I mean? I'm sitting in the county jail with the homies sitting there giving me a wall of protection. Cats from Oakland, Sac, cats from, you know, they all giving me a line, and I'm like this, just recording the whole album, and ain't nothing they could do, because in the county jail, before you've been convicted, I still got the freedom of speech. I could use my phone time for whatever I wanted for it. You know, and it's unlimited phone time, so if ain't nobody else need the phone, then I got all day. And wasn't nobody about to ask me for that phone, you know what I mean? They knew better than that, especially right then. You know, I got niggas from Oakland, San Francisco, Sacramento, wasn't nobody finna tell me I wasn't gonna use that phone straight up. And so I laid the whole album like in almost like a couple runs, recorded half of it with Brotha Lynch and half of it with a cat named Willie Charles, Trump Tight from Sacramento. And he made some knockers, and so we did the Do You Wanna Get High, Deuce Father Life with a mask on. And I'm just trying to be heard. End up being straight classics. So I'm in Tracy, I get convicted, actually I'm in the Sacramento County Jail, and I'm looking at some girly magazines. I got a subscription, I got Penthouse, I got Playboy, I got Hustler. So I'm looking at the Playboy magazine, I open that motherfucker up and it's me, Exorcist. And Playboy magazine, I'm like, oh, Hugh Hef is fucking with his boy. And so I don't know, you know, that was better than looking at the bitches, you know what I mean? Man, so it was a trip to see that. And that was a statement to how high we rose. Village Voice, the Chronicle, you know, the Tribune, the Sacramento Beat, and LA Times, you know. The people that fucked with me at that point, Vibe magazine, The Source, Murder Dog. I'm on the cover of the first ever Murder Dog magazine, you know what I mean? 4080 back in the day, rap pages. So being somebody that was under the underground, I ended up penetrating mainstream hip hop. And there ain't nobody that could ever match that, period. And so, you know, for jail, prison rappers, I was the Jay-Z. I was that unattainable thing that other rappers looked up to. They didn't want to be Tupac. They didn't want to be Jay-Z. They wanted to be X-rated. They wanted to do what Honoré Vachon did, because I got heard outside of them walls. And that's something that's like very difficult to do. And really me and Mac Dre, you got the Lifers group, you got other people that did their thing. But almost all other rappers who went to prison recorded their shit before they went to prison. Shout out to SPM, Gucci Mane, they did their thing. But it wasn't like what I did, you know what I mean? On a Friday and a Saturday, I gotta record my shit all night, pay a CO to take my shit out, and then go get in a riot the next day. I got to try Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I know Monday, Sunday afternoon is going bad. We all know it. I got to do 100 songs in that period of time, because I might not be able to do this again for 2 or 3 years. And so shit like that becomes unforgiving. Shit like that becomes nefarious. Vengeance is mine. You can hear that intensity in the music. It wasn't all, you know, made the way I wanted it, but it was the reality of what I was dealing with, for real. It was the truth. You know what? The homie Hollis, I don't have no issues with Hollis. I love Hollis. He owns some car dealerships, he doing his thing. And if he sends me some beats, I'll listen to him. KG sent me some beats, and he's another one of the producers people know me for. And that maybe Hollis got a lot of credit for even some of the shit that he did, people just thought. But KG was responsible for the Nefarious album and Vengeance is Mine as well. And he's in my phone right now, and I got a drive full of beats from him for the next project. So I'm not unwilling to fuck with Hollis, but this is my perspective. While I was in the pen, I told people I wanted to build something special, and they wanted to build what they wanted to build, and people, including Hollis, and God bless him. You know, Out of Bounds is that's his company he built. And I don't know of an Out of Bounds artist that's relevant right now. And that ain't no shot at my nigga. That's just testament to what I was attempting to say back then. I was trying to build a Blockstar Entertainment then, Madman. I tried it a couple times until I got it right with Blockstar Entertainment through my lessons. And hopefully that brother learned his lessons. But what I do know is now that I built it and it's functioning and I'm home And I just made an amazing record, The Execution of X-Rated by Honoré Vachon, dropping Friday. The smallest part of the existence of what I have left of an ego says, I don't want none of y'all niggas to touch my shit. Not one of them. Do it without them. Do it at the highest level possible. Make them all change what they got to do to respond to what I've just done. And then tell them I told you so. And then have compassion and empathy for them and say, come fuck with me. But the first part is, you're gonna recognize that I did this without you. So everybody that touched The Execution of X-Rated, which is a phenomenal record, is a part of Blockstar Entertainment. Block bangers, and they people that believed in me when I had a life sentence. And when I said, I'm gonna be the president of hip hop. I'm gonna be the president of Northern Cali Bay Area hip hop. And salute to the ambassador, I'm coming home to be impactful. And The Execution of Honoré Vachon Brown. The Execution of X-Rated by Honoré Vachon is a fulfillment of that promise. These niggas believed in it. Everybody on my team. I had 31 to life and no chance of coming home at all. Pete Wilson, Gray Davis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then here comes Jerry Brown, and now Gavin Newsom. No chance of coming home until 2012, and they start changing laws and saying, first of all, mass incarceration is a burden on the California budget because they gave a fuck about the dollars before they gave a fuck about the people. Plata, Coleman, court rulings, now overcrowding, medical is insufficient, inadequate, and now it culminates in Youth Offender Bill 261, 260. We have to get these people out of prison, and here I am. I got people on my team that didn't know if I was ever getting out of prison that rocked with me. The Cedric Singletons, you know, Kai Starr, Cringe Beats, The Bird, Low Key. These people didn't know if I was ever getting out of prison and rocked with me like I was, because I told them I'm coming home. And this is years before it happened. I'm coming home, I understand the formula, and I'm about to get about this bitch. And they said, let's do it. Filthy Rich, my boy Rich Morales from South Sac. Filthy Richard, not to be confused with my nigga from the town. You know, Filthy with the PH, you know, I'm talking about Filthy Rich with the FH, with the FI. I told them I was coming home while I had 31 to life, and they believed me. And them other niggas, as soon as I got them to a certain level, start fucking with other niggas. Like you take a broad in a room and she ain't secure in being your broad, and you around niggas of another level than you, but they may not be of another dream than you. And that bitch gonna jump to the nigga with the next level pocket because she can't respect your dream. Your dream might be bigger than his vision, but his pocket is presently bigger than yours. And you get a broad in that room and she gonna make that jump if she ain't A1. And that's what some of them niggas did to me. I got them in the game and niggas gave a fuck about them because of nefarious and vengeance in mind. So now you working with Snoop Dogg, now you work, but they was listening to me. Uncle Snoop was listening to my shit. He wasn't listening to Hollis, he was listening to me. And so now you want a Hollis beat, or badass want a Hollis beat, you go jump on that. Where am I at? You know what I mean? I'm saying, hey, I got a vision, and it's like I'm yelling into a tunnel. And I feel that way about a lot of people. And so I built my own shit. I took 2 or 3, 4 or 5 steps back so I could take 20 forward. And while people were wondering where I was in the dungeon, hire an entertainment attorney, build a California S Corp, pay all my back taxes, hire an accountant firm, and get the nigga on the door to be my CFO, and built a solid foundation, and then start constructing on that. Drop a few albums, like whatever quality, to try and do my thing. And then I walk out this bitch and I'm standing on a foundation better than damn near anybody ever built in the history of our hip hop at all. It's only a few of them fucking with it. Sake with it, Empire, and Blockstar Entertainment. Period.